How you guys all doing? Welcome to another exciting live stream. We're really excited to share what we have with you guys today. We'll give a couple minutes for people to trickle in here before we do any intros, anything like that. But yeah, we'll get a question going for those of you guys that are trickling in, so that we can get some answers going in the chat, get the conversation flowing. Whether you're on
get the blood flowing, get the brain
blood
flowing, get the fingers flowing, the
absolutely,
eyes
yeah.
flowing, everything.
Crack those fingers, stretch them out, get ready to type. So for those of you guys that are Pacific time, East Coast time, anywhere in between, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. Here's a question for you. We have a question for you, and it's very relevant to today's topic. Do you have a sales playbook? Now, it doesn't matter if you're a sales leader, if you are a sales practitioner, if you're new to sales, if you're a sales veteran. Do you have a sales playbook? We'd love to know. Type that in the chat. We're really excited to hear from you, and it's gonna play into what we talk about with you today. So we'd love to hear from you.
I would add too, it doesn't matter what it looks like, because I think some people, when you think of sales playbook, you're like, I don't have a 50-page sales playbook, so I don't really have one. But even if it's just a one-pager or something that you just like, here's a couple templates, here's this and here's that, we'll count that as a sales playbook today. So yeah, I would love to see if you have one, or maybe you're making it up as you go. That's part of it too. So if you kind of have a rolling document that's happening, then that counts too. We'll count everything today.
Absolutely. So do you have a sales playbook, as in, do you have any place, any document, any G sheet, any Excel sheet that houses information on your sales strategy, your plays, maybe like your scripts and your templates, maybe snippets of your value prop or ways to objection handle, anything like that? Do you compile your information on your sales strategy or your sales plays into any one place? Because then that is, whether official or unofficial, it's a sales playbook. We'd love to hear from you if you have one of those. Yes? Akil says yes, we do. And they're making it up as they go. That's totally fine, Akil.
Perfect.
That is probably what a lot of people, if not most, are doing. Michael Schmidt, yes, but looking to automate the process. Very interesting, Michael. Very interesting. Well, I can't wait to talk more with you guys about what you guys are doing and share with you guys some of the great ideas that we have for you here, or rather that Drew has for you here. And since we are a couple of minutes into the hour, why don't we do some quick intros? I'll hand it over to you first, Drew.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm Drew, the Sales Playbook Builder, and we're going to walk through how to build your sales playbook today. And then for the next 3 Thursdays, we're just going to be hanging out, just keep building on that foundation. So I'll give you a little bit more backstory and behind the scenes about who I am when we chat a little bit. But yeah, that's me.
Awesome. And I am Sarah Hicks. I am a SDR manager at Predictable Revenue. Super excited to have Drew on our live stream here to talk about building out a great, repeatable, scalable, actionable sales playbook, especially for you guys who thank you have already engaged in the chat. We'll help you. We'll help you build one. You're working on it as you go. We'll give you something tangible. We'll give you something that you can actually put into practice, share with the whole team. It can not just be knowledge that you have in your head, but become kind of tribal knowledge through your whole company if you are sharing it in a good, actionable way. We got 500 more digital limited. Great. A company is on the line here. We have one, but we're constantly building and refining it as we try new things. Amazing. Makes sense. Outbound and sales is a nebulous, ever-changing thing. So that's a great strategy to have. And Bruno, yes. And they use Pipefy for their
Pipefy. Interesting.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much for engaging already, guys. Can't wait to chat with you some more. Why don't we get started, Drew?
Yeah, that sounds great. I will leave it to you for questions. So as we go through this workshop together, feel free, like you already have been, your knuckles are all loose, your brains are getting looser. It's not the weekend yet. That's when your brains get a little bit more loose. But if you have any questions or any comments or feedback or anything along the way, just pop it into the chat. Sarah's going to be super responsive about that. And let me know if you have any questions or comments. So this is the first part of our 4-part series. Super excited to be a part of it with Predictable Revenue. And as Sarah said, we're here to help you build this repeatable, scalable sales culture from scratch. Just quick check. You can see my screen, Sarah?
Let me have a look here. Yeah. Oh, it's got a bit of delay. So let me double check. I can see it. Yeah. Yeah, I can.
Cool. So yeah, so we're gonna be building out this repeatable, scalable sales culture from scratch, and really is like from scratch. So specifically for founders, entrepreneurs, and new sales leaders who are looking to or building on their current sales team. So if you're a founder and you're at 500K MRR or ARR, and you're looking to build out your sales team in the next few years or the next year, then we're talking about building from scratch for you. And if you're a new sales leader who just got popped into the position, maybe you've been at an AE for a few years and now they want to build a team around you, well, we're going to help you build that foundation for your sales team in the future. So today we're going to be specifically talking about building your sales playbook, and I've got a great easy 4-step process that I'm going to share with you and that you can use ongoing. As you've heard, some of the people that were commenting in the playbook or in the comments, I think it was like Bruno or Mike was saying that it's ongoing and changing. And that's exactly, I mean, you've kind of skipped already ahead 10 minutes, but playbooks are not just a playbook that sits on your shelf for the next year or 5 years. It's something that you constantly revisit. Some people do it on a daily basis, weekly, quarterly, yearly, depending on kind of how environments change and how your team changes. So let's talk about how to build your sales playbook in 4 easy steps. So what I want, we got about an hour together. As you saw in the outline and the meeting invite, we've got some workshop content, and then we got some Q&A, and we're also going to be building a few things together. So my promise to you is just to give you as much as I've got an hour with you. So I just want to give as much as I can to you, as much knowledge as I can. So again, if you have any questions, ask them in the chat, and any comments, ask them in there, because I'm here to spend some time with you and workshop with you around building your sales playbook. So I am Drew, self-proclaimed sales playbook builder, Williams. I run an organization called Sales Playbook Builder. And what we do is, you guessed it, build sales playbooks. And I came to it fairly recently. I have been a career salesperson. My first job was inside sales at Career Builder when they were building out their Toronto office, their multi-million-dollar company in the States, moving to Canada. We had about 20 sales reps, and it was one of those inside sales headset, whiteboard, $15,000 a month quota, make 100 phone calls a day. You had like all these processes in place and incredible onboarding and hiring. And then moved into a territory outside sales rep, worked at 3M, big Fortune 500 company, amazing support and assets and marketing and brand behind it. It really set me and the other salespeople up for success. After that, I decided I've always had this kind of entrepreneurial need to do something different, don't fit into the box type of mentality. So at that time, my early 20s, my brother was actually diagnosed with testicular cancer, and he went through a bunch of surgeries and chemotherapy. And let's fast forward today, he's happy and healthy and has 2 kids. So the story ends up really well, but let's rewind to that time. My brother and I both quit our jobs, and we started a not-for-profit together called Heal for Life, Healthy Everyday Active Living for Life, where we wanted to go and promote men's health, mental and physical. So we did that for a year and a little bit, and then decided to get back into the workforce. And at that time, I had that kind of big company, lots of growth opportunities, hundreds of people, thousands of people in the company, and this amazing sales engine running. And I didn't want to jump back into this kind of big organization. I wanted to be a part of something to satisfy a little bit of that entrepreneurial spirit. So that's when I looked towards SaaS and startups. So I got into as a first sales rep, working directly with the founders with a couple different SaaS companies, and it was definitely a different experience from working with the Fortune 500 companies and these giant brands. We'll get into a little bit about how it was different, but I think one of the biggest things that was different is that these organizations have structure and foundations in place to really support their sales team, to make their sales teams just like high powering, high performing organizations as teams and as individuals. And I didn't see that when I was walking in, working directly with the founders. And I was, frankly, it was like kind of a fish out of water, because you walk in expecting all these things in place and they weren't. You had to kind of build it as you go. And we already heard from a few people on the call that you're experiencing that. So whether you're the salesperson or you're the founder or the manager, that you're walking in and all of a sudden you don't have like a 50-page playbook to tell you exactly what to do, who your customers are, how to communicate with them, what the sales process is. You have to build it yourself. So I kind of set out on this mission to say, okay, I'm going to be advocating for the salesperson, which was me in that case, to help empower them in these startups, and also advocating for the founders, because not every founder comes from a sales background. Maybe a technical founder. You might be a founder that came from marketing or a consulting background, and now you want to start your own company. So what I want to do is advocate for both, and the best thing to do is create sales playbooks to help translate these two kind of mindsets to get everybody on the same page, to really gear up that sales process. So I've been doing that, just building sales playbooks, and super excited to again share with you everything that I can today. I'm here to just give as much as I can. We have some worksheets. The slides are going to be available. The recordings are going to be available. Everything is available. So hopefully I can overflow your cup. You got lots of berries.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
question for everybody. So we talked about, if you have a sales playbook, you might have, let's say, built a sales team in the past. You might be looking towards building a sales team. You might have been a part of a sales team. So the question to you is, and put it in the chat, is what do you see as like a challenge, or what has been the biggest challenge that you've experienced either building a sales team, hiring salespeople, onboarding salespeople, or even if you were in that situation that I was, what's the challenge that you've seen of being a part of a growing team? Because there are two different perspectives that we should consider. So throw your answer in there. What do you see as the biggest challenge, or what have you experienced as the biggest challenge when it comes to building a team of salespeople?
Yeah. Interesting. And Drew, what do you think your biggest challenge was when you were in that seat? Yeah, what was the biggest headache in kind of building that for yourself?
Two things. One was not knowing that I had to build it in the first place,
Right.
because the expectation working for this fast-paced tech startup was that you're going to walk in, it's like this shiny new Lamborghini, you're going to get in and just kind of race to be a unicorn and a multi-billion-dollar exit. And meanwhile, you show up and it's like there's not even a door, there's a steering wheel, but it's kind of beside you. There's no roof on it, and you have to start building it. So the expectation versus reality, that was kind of a challenge to get over. And then the second biggest challenge that I saw was just the getting on the same page as the founder,
Mm,
because, and or in some cases the managers. But when you're an entrepreneur or founder, you have a million things on the go, and there's a million things in your to-do list, and it just keeps growing and growing. So supporting, coaching, and training a sales team is not super high on the priority, and that was a challenge because that's what I was used to, coming from those cultures that had that sort of coaching and training support.
right. Makes sense. We've got a couple answers here. So Bruno says his challenge is to make salespeople follow the process. Okay, okay. So you're building out that process anew, it seems like, Bruno, and your struggle is in adoption, which can honestly be a big problem with salespeople. There is a certain type of person that, well, generally speaking, big sweeping generalization, but there's a certain type of person that maybe gravitates towards sales, and it can tend to be that lone wolf type that likes to take things into their own hands. So, absolutely, whether it's an adoption issue or whether it's just sort of a disseminating knowledge in an effective way issue, definitely it can be really tough to get everybody to actually follow that process that you're building.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's because one thing to have the process, and it's another thing to kind of follow up to make sure that they are following it. The first step is defining the process, documenting it, and then that's the kind of ongoing and training and coaching piece that is definitely lacking in a lot of organizations. But you can think to kind of ways. I think Bruno, even early on, you were talking about automating. So there's a few ways that you can kind of automate and just kind of plan out. So it's not necessarily automated, because you still want to be a part of that process and encourage them to follow that process.
Nice. Well, we'd love to hear from more of you. We'll move ahead a little bit here in the presentation, but any of you guys give us more of those challenges. I'll jump in. Oh, we got one. Nice. So 500 more digital. That again, I don't know who is behind this face of 500 digital limited. This mysterious person that is back there, but this person says, my biggest challenge as a founder is dedicating enough time to sales and prospecting when there are so many other things I can fill my time with. There you go. Okay, so we're talking founder-led sales here.
Hmm. Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, you're talking my language. I work directly with founders, and they have that issue. Like, I'm just building out a playbook for a founder, a SaaS company based out of Toronto, and he's booked out like weeks in advance for demos and discovery calls, and he just can't keep up. And so now you have to kind of put some processes in place to kind of backfill yourself, because as a founder, like you said, you got a million things going on. So it's important to backfill yourself once you have kind of built out a process that somebody else can come in and kind of accelerate that sales process.
Awesome. And it turns out 500 More Digital Limited is actually a person named Greg. So thank
Hey,
you,
Greg.
Greg. Nice to have you on. Thank you so much for the engagement, and all of you guys who have sent in a message so far. Keep them coming. Let's keep going, Drew.
Yeah. So a couple pieces when we think specifically around sales playbooks. So just going back to that challenge of like building a team. So we saw some challenges about, okay, actually building the process, having people following the process, transitioning out of founder-led sales. So I see the sales playbook as really a bridge and a foundation to kind of tackle some of these challenges. So when I was in those roles, and what I've seen working with the founders is when you don't have a sales playbook, there is no direction. So even when you hire salespeople, sure, they can come in and start calling, start emailing, but who are they calling? How often are they calling? What sort of messages? What kind of objections are they going to see, and how are they handling them? So the challenge is that they don't really have any direction, and because it's not documented, then they just keep coming back to you, and you can imagine that is going to be taking up a lot of your valuable time, that you don't have time to just be answering one or two questions every hour because you don't have it documented in a sales playbook. So you want to get everybody on the same page and kind of following the same direction. Another big kind of challenge that I saw an issue was this like misalignment. So if you're let's keep with the SaaS example. So if your, let's say, average contract value is $5,000 to $10,000 a year, and your salesperson comes in and they're comped based on their total sales volume, well, they might want to go after contracts that have six figures because they're going to get a bigger bonus. But that's not aligned with your growth trajectory. And if you don't have that sales playbook to kind of support that and to give them some sort of context on the alignment of where your organization is moving, then you're going to have this misalignment. And that creates probably the worst thing that you can have at an early stage company are missed opportunities. And I'm talking about missed sales opportunities.
Mhm.
So when you have two people or salespeople on your team that aren't all on the same page, they're not going the same direction, they're not aligned with your vision, then you're going to have missed opportunities, whether it's missed follow-ups, missed demos, missed potential partnerships that you could have, and yeah, ultimately missed customers. So it's unfortunate that it happens, but when you do get it right, when we put together a sales playbook that is effective, that reflects your processes that you've been proving out over the past year or a couple years, then really we start looking at this foundation. So now you have a foundation that you can you build your sales playbook, you have a foundation, now you can start scaffolding on top of that. So we'll talk about the 4 steps, but essentially, so you have whatever you have now, and then if you want to add an outbound sales motion, you can add an outbound sales motion because you have this solid inbound sales motion. If you want to go up market, then you can create another chapter element of the sales playbook because you have this mid-market element. Now you're going to go up market. So you're building a foundation so that you can scale and grow on top of that, whether it's people, product, or partnerships or different kind of sales motions.
We have a
The
quick
other awesome
question here
yeah,
that
go
I
ahead.
that I want to touch on, and it's from Aditya. So, how do we measure the effectiveness of what's working and what's not when we're actually, building and trying to get our teams to adopt that sales playbook? How do you measure the effectiveness?
So the effectiveness of the actual adoption of the sales process that you're talking
Let's.
about?
I'm not sure exactly. Maybe Aditya, you can give us a little color there. But my assumption is around you build a playbook which
Yep.
tells your salespeople how to do X, Y, and Z. How do you know that sort of list of things that you're getting them to do are effective, especially if you're building for the first time and maybe you don't have a data set of like the team you came from, hundreds of sales reps who have done this over and over and really validated it. So
Yeah.
how do you know it's working?
Yeah. So one of the things we'll talk about, there's kind of two, well, we will talk about that when we're talking about building out the actual sales playbook. But the first thing you want to do is just audit your best practices and audit what's been working for you. You don't really want to document in a sales playbook something that you're guessing might work and then have a salesperson execute that and try and see if it does work. So as a founder, what you want to do is go out there as a leader, prove that some sort of sales motion works, that some sort of sales cadence works, that communication, the messaging works. You document that, that goes in your sales playbook, and you already know that it's effective once you put it into the playbook. And then now it's a matter of having that sales rep execute that effective strategy that you've proved out. So it should be proved out and effective first before it goes into the sales playbook.
Awesome. Thank you.
And yeah, kind of once that happens, once you have these effective processes and messaging and everything else that's in sales playbooks, then you have your reps hitting the ground running. So when they walk into their role, they know who they're calling, how often they're following up, whether you go through a disco or a discovery call and a demo call, or if it's just a discovery call, pass off to an AE, they're really just going to jump into the role and just hit the ground running. And they're going to be ramped up a lot faster, hitting their quota faster, and hitting all their activity goals much faster. And then finally, for you as the leader and founder entrepreneur, this is going to give you an incredible amount of confidence in that sales process and also in that sales engine, because ultimately we were talking about founder-led sales just really briefly. Ultimately what you want to do is remove yourself from that sales function, remove yourself from the sales engine, essentially. And not, you're not completely disconnecting from it, you're staying plugged into it, but you're transitioning out of that founder-led sales and giving that sales motion and that sales, those sales tools to your team and letting the team execute it and on your behalf. And you're going to gain a lot more confidence because you know that it's documented, it's in the playbook, and you're able to kind of look at that and assess and evaluate based on the criteria and the metrics and all the processes that are in the playbook.
Nice.
So what I'm going to do right now is just kind of walk through a little bit about the process and give you some foreshadowing of what's happening in the next few webinars, and then we'll kind of dig into actually what this looks like from a practical perspective, so that you can do this as some homework before next week, and you can kind of keep building on it over time. So my 4-step process, we look at it as a audit, align, assemble, and accelerate. So the first part is your audit. So you're really just looking at what you currently have in your sales playbook. So your current sales motion, you might kind of look at a few things. So you might have, let's say, a few things that you're looking at in your sales playbook. You're probably looking at, let's say, templates. You could have scripts. We talked a little bit about objection handling. So really just looking at what you currently have, what's currently been working for you. And that's your audit piece. So that's the first step. The second step is aligning. So when I talk about aligning, we're looking at aligning all these elements to an outline and to just to basically get organized. So what you have and what I'll share with you is basically a nice little outline that has some different folders, so that you have, let's say, your communication folder, your demo discovery folder, your outreach folder, and your marketing resources folder. So the first step, you align, see what you have. Second step, bring those into the different folders so you can get nice and organized. And then the final step is the assemble piece. And that's when you basically take your everything that you have, write it all out into your different chapters and headings. And again, I'm going to walk you through what that looks like in a second. And then the fourth step, when we look at accelerate, a little bit less kind of easy to understand. The accelerate piece is going back to look at, so once you finish your sales playbook, now you're looking at ways to, let's say, improve some processes that you have, maybe fill gaps. So you might have, let's say, an outbound email cadence for following up on proposals, but you don't have an email cadence for inbound requests for sales leads, or you have a lead magnet, but there isn't you're just doing that manually. So you're looking at the gaps, where you can add gaps, where you can build on that sales playbook, and then also areas that you can improve on. So maybe you just have like a couple points for your discovery call notes or a demo script, and you want to kind of flesh that out a little bit. So that's the fourth step. And when you kind of look at it all together, you'll notice that you do have this like cyclical nature to it, where we were talking about before. This isn't something that's just going to sit on your shelf. It's going to be you're going to go through these 4 steps, and depending on your market, depending on your customers, depending on your team, you might be revisiting this on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, yearly basis. But the whole idea is that this is continuously improving, and you're constantly changing and improving what's in the sales playbook based on your team, based on your product, and based on what the market is telling you.
And where do you recommend that this is all housed? Is there a certain tool that you like to use? Does it matter? Where do you capture all of this and keep it so that it can be, shared and revisited and all of that?
Yeah, so there's a few different tools, I mean, that you can use. Very simply, I use G Suite. So you can build out, I have templates that'll show you. We have some templates for the actual folders that you can set out, and then also a Google, what are they? Not the sheets, the Word doc,
Mm,
Google ones. What are they called?
Google Doc.
Google Doc. That's it. A Google Doc, an outline for the sales playbook. So yeah, you can. That's a really easy one. You can also edit it, update it all the time. You can export it as a PDF, and it looks pretty for your new sales reps. But the idea behind the sales playbook is that they're functional. They're also, you can house it in your company wiki, in a learning management system, on a separate web page that's private, kind of wherever. At the end of the day, it's like, it's not about the tool, it's about it getting used. So wherever you think is going to be most effective for your team to use it, that's where I would put this information.
Nice.
And yeah, for that, we got 3 more webinars or 3 more workshops, and what we're going to do is like layer on top of this process, or layer on top of this sales playbook building, is mapping out your sales playbook, or mapping out the sales process, so that we can see it from like prospecting to closing, and all the different enablement elements that'll help you accelerate and find those gaps and holes in your sales playbook. And then we're also going to look at um, right at the center, which I see is at the center of your sales playbook, because we're not building a sales playbook necessarily for your sales process. We're building it for the buyer's journey. So at the center of your sales playbook and the sales process is your buyer, which is your ideal customer profile. So we're going to doing a deep dive into ideal customer profiles to make sure that our sales playbook and our sales process align with who we're actually selling to.
Yeah, very important.
Does maybe on that question, on that point, and just thinking of like ideal customer profile, does everybody, maybe you want to put it in the chat, just thinking of like your niche or your ideal customer profile on a scale of, let's say, 1 to 10, 10 being like, I nailed my ideal customer profile, nailed my niche, I know exactly who I'm talking to and communicating to. 1 being like, you know what, I've created something, I don't really know who it's for, I'm just kind of experimenting with it. So it's like on a 1 to 10, like 10 knowing exactly who you're communicating to, who you're building the sales playbook for, and then 1 being like, you know what, I'm starting out, I'm not really sure exactly who we're going to be selling to right now, we're just trying to get some market feedback. I'd be curious to see where people are at in terms of that process.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to see that. Um, and in your own experience, Drew, did you come in to Playbook Builder when you built Sales Playbook Builder? Did you come in 10, built it for an ideal customer profile, or did you kind of think, okay, I see a need for this in my own experience, and then build it, and then go out and find exactly who it was built for?
hmm So I had I've been working with SaaS founders in startups that don't have sales teams, and I saw that there's a huge need for this. And I know that you can build sales playbooks for any organization, big or small. There's multi-million-dollar companies that don't have sales playbooks that need to build one, that have 100 sales reps. So there's a need for sales playbooks there. But
Mm.
what I found, kind of when thinking about my ideal customer profile, who can I really talk to, communicate with, relate with, empathize with? And that was those SaaS founders, because I was in the shoes of that first sales rep in those organizations, and I felt the frustrations, and I also dealt directly with the founders, and I felt their frustrations, and I empathized with them of how difficult it was to build something from scratch, let alone build a sales team from scratch. So I've been kind of, I think I had a 10, and then I would always kind of say, okay, well, there's a bigger market, but I kept coming back to this. Okay, let's work with founders, specifically SaaS founders, to help them build out their sales team through building your sales playbook.
Nice. We've got some good answers coming in here. We've got Mia's giving a 3, still working on it, still building it. And she also said this is very valuable for her as a founder. So this is great. Um,
Awesome.
Javad's got a 10. Amazing.
Javad, I like
Greg
this.
of 500 More Digital, a 6. Getting there, over the hump, getting closer to that 10. Akil's got an 8.5. Very, very high up there. That's like pretty honed in for sure. Henning's giving a 7. Benjamin, another 10. Aditya, an 8. And then Mun, another 3. Stas, a 7. So we're all across the board here. We've got people, doesn't seem we've got anything lower than a 3. So we're beyond the just market
That's good.
research phase, and we're starting to hone in a little, and then we're all the way up to a 10.
I like it. I like the 8.5 too, where it was like, I'm not a 9, I'm not an 8. It's like an 8.5. Must be some sort of like technical numbers person behind that number, the 8.5. Before we get into kind of workshop, well, let's just workshop together. That was good. So before we kind of start working together on the worksheet, I'm going to take you through these 4 steps in a little bit more detailed in 2 different ways. So we've got like what stage we're at up here. So this is the audit stage. You have We're going to work through this worksheet together, and you're going to have this that you can use on your own. So what I like to do at the very beginning is just think of like, okay, why are you building your sales playbook? What's the purpose of it? Are we just documenting our current process? Are we looking to hire and build a sales team? Are we organizing our company? Do we have a new offering, a new product offering? Are we going from mid-market to upmarket? Do we have a new product offering, or do we have a new sales motion? So we think of sales motion. You might be just 100% inbound sales right now, and just your marketing team is rocking it, and all you're doing is just kind of replying to kind of a land and expand where people are coming in and you're just getting them signed up. And then now you realize in order to grow, in order to double in size, you have to start building this outbound sales motion. So that's why you're putting together this playbook, because it's a little bit different from what you've been doing. So let's just say for sake, what we're doing is documenting our current process, and then within audit. So what we do is like look at what you have. So the elements of the playbook that you currently have, you document them. And we'll do this together. We'll document these in somewhere, and then you're going to figure out where it is, because it's one thing to know that you have it, but where is it? So a couple of different places you're housing these documents or this information. Could be on Google Drive, could be on a computer somewhere in a wiki, could be even in your head. And so if you're a founder, a lot of this stuff is going to be in your head, and that's going to add just one extra step to it, which is fine. But essentially what you're going to do is just, if it's in your head, you have a process that you've been doing, but you haven't actually documented it. What you're going to do is take that process out of your head, document it, put it into the sales playbook, so then somebody else can come and execute that on your behalf. So the second piece is adding these elements to get organized, which is aligning them into the different chapters or headings of a sales playbook. So I'll share this with you after. I have a sample folder that you can have a look at. Very simple. Call it sales playbook. And then this is where you can add all of your, let's say, sub chapters or elements of your sales playbook. And this might look different for everybody. Not everybody is going to have a bunch of marketing resources. Some people might not have sales training today. That's fine. The whole point is auditing what you have, building what you have, and then building on it over time, because this is something you're going to be building for your entire the entire existence of your organization, constantly revisiting it and building on it over time. And then the final step, which is the kind of most exciting piece, is assembling it. So putting it all together. But how do you put it together? Well, I've got a worksheet and a template for you and a sample. So I'll show that to you. And also you can have that after this call. So once you've gone through auditing what you have, aligning it to the chapter headings or elements, then you can just easily put it into your playbook and it's complete. And then at the end of it, you can go ahead and take a look at some of the gaps that you have. You can take a look at the examples that I've given you to see if you have all those sales resources. And if you don't, then maybe you want to build on them. And then also we talked about that sales process. So we're going to be talking about that in another workshop. This will give you a good idea of your whole sales process and what you have in terms of enablement and support resources to help your sales reps. So once you complete your sales playbook, then you can kind of take a look at these gaps that we're going to identify in the next workshop to then better your sales playbook. And when you get it right, it's awesome. Give panel. I worked with Nick, founder led sales. We built out a sales playbook, helped him refine the sales processes, and he built out a sales playbook, or I'll built one for him with him, and he was able to hire a new sales rep, and they were kind of like off to the races right away, closing deals literally within the first couple of weeks. It was definitely a seasoned rep that was from the industry, so he already had one step ahead. But because of the amazing kind of work that we did together on nailing the ideal customer profile, giving him some support in terms of discovery and demo scripts and flows, had all the resources to really just go in and perform his job, and it's just a matter of refining it and making it better. So when it works, it works. So I'll pause there before we build together to see if there's any questions or comments. Feel free to pop them into the chat, and then what we're going to do is build a little bit together, and then we'll kind of pause and wrap it up and do some Q&A at the end. I'd love to just kind of give you as much as I can, like I said, today. So if you have any questions for now, pop them in the chat. I'll just pause there for a second.
Yeah, sounds good. I have a quick question, just kind of along that same vein. We were chatting about where do people see their confidence in their ICP, or to which degree they have nailed that niche. What is your recommendation for further nailing your niche?
I'll tell you that in a couple workshops, in a couple
There you go.
webinars. Join us
Top
on May
3 tips
13th
to
or
stick
May 9th,
around.
whatever it is. Yeah, so we're going to do a real deep dive into your ideal customer profile. But I think, so it's like, what are the tips to like really nailing that niche? So the biggest thing I find, and this is why the workshop's titled this, in a week or a couple of weeks, is empathy. So when you think of empathy, you think of stepping into somebody's shoes. So it's one thing to know that I'm targeting, let's say, my ideal customer profile are SaaS founders. Okay, that's kind of here. So now peel the onion, go a little bit deeper. SaaS founders who are looking to grow their sales team in the next year. Okay, that's the next step down. Now we look at kind of, again, you just kind of keep layering down, peeling the onion, whatever analogy you want to use, and put yourself in the shoes of those founders. So they're busy, they have a lot of things to do, they want to grow their business, they have huge aspirations. So like, and these are all part of that ideal customer profile. So when I say my ideal customer profile is no longer just SaaS founders, you're looking at SaaS founders who want to grow their sales team within 6 months, that have just so many things on the go that they want to participate in it, they want to learn, but they also don't have time to execute everything themselves. So I would say that the biggest thing is just like, once you have your ideal customer profile, go deeper and just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper until you can't go any deeper.
Nice. And certainly you guys who are sitting at the maybe like 6 mark and below, that is a great incentive to stick around for that workshop coming up. Empathy. It's going to be a really good one. Yeah. Any other questions? Feel free to pop them in the chat. I also am curious to know, for you guys who are now thinking about building this playbook, what is one piece of knowledge, one little strategy, one template? What is one thing that you want to make sure you capture in your sales playbook? Because I can bet you that it's something that might be useful for other people. So yeah, give us a little hint into what is one piece of content that you would love to capture in your own sales playbook.
I feel like you're looking ahead, Sarah.
Oh,
That's good timing. No, it's good. I'm just joking. You're looking ahead, which is perfect. So yeah, let's hear some examples of what you want to see in your sales playbook, and we'll start building out a kind of the beginnings of a sales playbook that we're gonna build together. Let's say, so we're going to crowdsource the examples of what you want to see in your sales playbook, and then what we're going to do is, if someone wants to put up their hand, or we'll just choose someone who's been commenting, if you want to choose someone, Sarah, after. But what we'll do is crowdsource some examples of what are in sales playbooks, as the, let's say, as the first step. And then second step, what we're going to do is pick someone and have them share with us what current resources they have, and then we're going to ask them where it is. And then we're also going to align it to some elements of the sales playbook to give you an idea of how you can work through this worksheet on your own. So let's crowdsource some examples of what you want to see in your sales playbook.
yeah. I can give an example while we've got some filtering in. So one thing I would love to have in my sales playbook is sequence design or cadence design. Stas says objection handling. Somebody who is in as the company name again. So P-ship support says cold call script.
Yeah.
PS ship support. That's his God-given name. PS ship.
You're born as a corporation. Cold call scripts, objection handling, sequence design. Awesome. How about sales meetings, like sales meeting outlines, sales
Yeah,
meetings,
totally.
expectations, that sort of thing?
Email scripts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are all fantastic. So sequence designing, objection handling, a lot of scripts, some meetings. What else? Anything else you want to add, Sarah?
Mm,
You have?
I think that's kind of it. Oh, somebody is contributing here, cadence post demo. Cool. So how to continue taking that opportunity through the pipeline. And demo structure. Yeah.
Yeah, those are great. Yeah, demo structure, discovery structure. I
Qualification
call it,
criteria. That's a
yeah,
great one. Customer stories.
criteria. Woof. Okay, we're out of room.
Okay. That's it.
Customer stories. Yeah, those are awesome. Yeah, essentially anything that you can think of. And again, when we map out the sales process, we're going to see that there are some enablement resources that we didn't name here that you might not have, you might not even have thought of. So that's helpful of kind of mapping out the sales processes to kind of understand the entire process and really kind of step by step and see how you can support the sales reps. So you want to pick somebody who gave us an example, and maybe, yeah, do you want to pick someone now? And then we'll just kind of, we'll put them on the spot, just a chat spot. You don't have to do anything other than just kind of do some more chatting in there, and maybe yeah, pick someone and then just see if we have some more resources from that one person, let's say.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we'll basically ask you where it is, and then we'll align it to some elements of the playbook.
Okay. I'm going to pick on Akil because he had contributed one more that didn't make it to this list here because we'd run out of space. So now's your time to shine, Akil. So we've got one already that he contributed, which is sales metrics definitions. So yeah, clearly defining those sales metrics. Akil, pop a few more in there. What other resources do you have? And I think you mentioned early on that you're making up as you go. Your playbook is kind of evolving as you go. So that's great. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure there are new things being added to it all the time. What are some of those things that you've got in that ever evolving playbook?
Yeah. And if you're already doing like discovery calls or demo calls, or you're sending out emails, like those are all resources that you have. So kind of think about those things that you, and this is part of the process of going through it, is saying, oh, I don't have like a lot of things, but think of when you get someone emailing you saying, I want to buy or I'm interested. What do you do with them? What do you give them? Is it a PDF? That counts as a resource. Do you send them an email? Do you send the same email for the same questions? Like that counts as a resource. There are all these things that you have that you probably don't even realize that are super valuable for sales reps.
Yeah, exactly. Even if they're not documented anywhere right now, as you're saying. Okay, he says lead qualification definitions like
Mhm.
MQLs, SQLs. Awesome. Yeah, think of anything that, like, if you had a brand new sales rep that joined the job and they received an email, or they were supposed to send an email and they said, what am I supposed to do here? Whatever thing you tell them to do is part of your sort of institutional knowledge as a salesperson, and we're trying to make it easy to share. So post demo decks as well. Akil has post demo decks. Send out to the prospects.
Okay, that's good. We can just work with these. We don't have to do the entire thing. So on that one, Akil, where is your post demo deck? Is it in a Google Doc somewhere? Is it just saved on the computer? Same with like these qualification criteria. Are they just in your head and you kind of know who's qualified and who's not qualified, or do you have it documented somewhere? And I think with the sales metrics, you mentioned that's something you wanted to build into it. If you do have any sales metrics, like let me know too. It could be in your head or it could be documented somewhere. Both answers are totally fine. If you don't know where it is, then that counts too, I guess.
And then that's why we're here, to
Yeah.
help you build out this process in a really efficient way. Yeah, we'll give a couple seconds here. I'm trying to think of all the places that our information is stored just for my own. We're also a big user of the G Suite. Tons of stuff is
Hmm.
in Google Drives for us, most of our sales playbook stuff. And then certain enablement tools, sales enablement tools have kind of space for you to save a lot of this stuff in there. Like for instance, Outreach lets you save snippets or templates or that kind of thing. Okay, Akil
Hmm.
says it's all in the company's Google Drive.
Perfect. G Suite all the way down here. So that's easy. So again, if you don't have it documented somewhere, so let's say, for example, it's in your head, just if you do have something that's in your head, then just make a point to put it into G Suite or something. Get it out of your head and get it documented somewhere. And then the final step is really just aligning it to some of these elements. So our sales metrics are going to go into, let's say, sales process. Qualification MQL is going to go into, again, let's say sales process. Email scripts, say communication, and then post demo. Think of some like PDFs and resources. Again, that might go into, could be either a sales process or discovery demo. Let's put in a discovery demo here. So now you've audited what you have, you know where it is, you're aligning it to the different chapters or elements in your sales playbook. Here's a cheat sheet for those that some things that you might want to just kind of think through some of these. So this is on a worksheet that you have. You can work through it after. So now you start adding these to your G Suite in an organized fashion. So everybody, can you see this screen? The G Suite.
Let me check. Yes.
Perfect. So I'm going to share this with everybody. So there's a template in that I've created that's available for everybody. So you can just have a look at this. You can add your own folders, take away some folders, leave them there for placeholders. So that's available for you after to then just add in all of your documents. And then when you're actually building out and assembling your sales playbook, that's what we do. But if you want to do it yourself, then you can pop into this nifty Google Doc that is a template and that is, yes, shared with the world. So you all have access to this. And I just given some general headings and outline of a sales playbook. So then you can just take your documents that are in those folders and just pop them right into your Google Doc. And when you think of kind of like what it looks like at the very end, I'm not a big fan of adding too many graphics or fancy things to your sales playbook, because at the end of the day, this is something actionable for the sales reps to use while they're on the front lines working with customers. But essentially, you have a mix of either text or links or pictures or videos, whatever it is. But when you're looking at a sales playbook, this one's about 20 pages long. It doesn't take long to fill it up. But this is really just what a sample of a sales playbook might look like for you, with your case studies, your sales administrative stuff, your tech stack that you're using, whether it's Slack or Gmail, Outreach. Yeah, just kind of everything that's going to be in your sales playbook. So you all have a I'll give this to everybody as well too, so you have this example. And then we did talk about where else can you house it. So within Trainual, this is another SaaS software that houses all sorts of standard operating procedures, and I've got some templates in there for sales playbook building. So if you want to take it to the next level, which is going from your Google Docs to PDF to then a SaaS solution, it's an awesome place to kind of house all of your training sales playbook elements in there. Now you have a completed sales playbook. Super easy, 4 steps. I like to, yeah, I'll throw it out to if anybody has any questions or comments about building your sales playbook. I hope that was super informative. Again, like I said, you have access. We're going to give you the recording, the templates, the worksheets. You're going to have my notes. I'm hoping what you're going to do after this is take those worksheets, work through those kind of first 4 steps. And even if you are just building a brief template and adding a couple of things to the sales playbook, the whole point of doing this is to begin the exercise and begin a culture of documenting your best practices, documenting them into this foundation, which is a sales playbook. So then you can continue to build your sales team and your sales culture so that eventually you get to a point where it's repeatable and scalable.
Awesome. We did have one question come in. I know right at the beginning, we talked about the fact that, of course, a sales playbook continues to evolve because sales itself is sort of ever evolving. Strategies change, tactics change, potentially your customer changes based on a myriad of factors. So something that one of our guests has asked, Mun has asked, how do you increase conversion rate from call script and email? I know that that is not specifically in the playbook design sort of realm. That being said, kind of results of any experiments would have to then be added into the sales playbook. So how can your sales book
Mhm.
evolve basically to capture that sort of changing information?
Yeah, so I feel like that falls into a so it's creating a mechanism essentially for catching where you need to improve or add or change or update the playbook or a process. So that really has to do with a close relationship with you and your sales reps. So when I was talking earlier about that confidence of kind of like releasing yourself from the sales engine, I'm not saying completely remove yourself, because especially when you're transitioning out of founder-led sales, you used to be the person talking to all your customers and prospects, and you're getting all this the feedback about product and marketing and all these messaging, and now you're handing that off to somebody else, and that's challenging to do, and it's a little bit scary because somebody else is kind of listening to the customers and prospects on a daily basis. So creating a feedback loop with your reps as part of either you can do it through your one-on-ones or weekly meetings with them, adding a placeholder for that of just any sort of feedback or suggestions from the sales reps. That also gives the sales reps ownership of the sales playbook. So it's not just you updating it all the time. It gives them ownership to update and change and improve over time. Another amazing tool, you're not really going to be able to use this for, let's say, email scripts, but an amazing tool for giving feedback on both sides is just recording your discovery calls, recording your demo calls. So then you build in this culture of coaching and teaching and reviewing these calls either together or on your own and giving feedback in that sense. And that's where you can, takes a little bit of skill to see where those gaps are. But again, it's getting, seeing the information, whether it's through metrics and stats or through recorded calls, and then giving feedback both ways to improve.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed there. And if I could just jump in with my 2 cents here, I'll
Hmm.
ask Veronica, who's one of our lovely marketing ladies, to drop into the chat one of our videos from Outbound Labs. Basically, it just gives you a bit of a framework on how to run experiments for this type of thing. Because, of course, the fine tuning comes from recording and kind of taking a listen for those gaps. But in terms of what cold call scripts work, the best thing you can do is just test, is just kind of experiment. So we'll drop in a link here on how you can run those types of experiments internally. And my dog is trying to bite my arm while I talk to you guys. Any other questions that we have at the moment for Drew?
I love
I'll
the
give
idea of the micro experiments, as it's super helpful, and that helps to improve the playbook too. So like you said, whether it's emails or just anything you're doing, try it. And if it works, document it and repeat it. And if it doesn't, try something else.
Yeah, exactly. Documentation is key with experimentation. I feel a lot of, especially early stage, kind of building up that sales team, building out your strategy from scratch. You'll end up doing something where you try something and then you clone the sequence, but you change like 10 things, and then you don't know what actually worked and what didn't, and then you're kind of going flip flopping back and forth between old strategies and new strategies because you don't have a truly sort of fine tuned scientific sort of experimentation process. And that's exactly, and thank you, we've got a link dropped in here, the Outbound Lab series will teach you basically how to take that real scientific approach where you've got your variable and you've got your control in any experiment, and that way you can truly document what has worked and what hasn't and include it in this sales playbook. Well, we'll give a couple more minutes. We've got 7 minutes, so any questions that do come up, drop them in the chat. But why don't we talk a little bit about what is coming up? Remind everybody what is coming up in the next 4 weeks here.
Yeah, absolutely. I have. Do you have the schedule?
I
The
do.
schedule up
I
here.
do.
Yeah, you
Um,
share the schedule, but I know that we have. So what we were talking about at the very beginning was just looking at this idea of building a repeatable, scalable sales culture, and we decided to do it in a 4-part series because it's not easy to just kind of get everything out in one. We wanted to make sure that this was all actionable and practical, so that at the end of this 4-part workshop series, you have recordings, you have worksheets, and you have kind of a game plan to then go ahead and execute. on building out your sales playbook, building out an amazing sales process, an empathetic ideal customer profile, and then the next step, which is like bringing on onboarding, hiring, and bringing in those sales people, so that you have this, like, let's say, a playbook about playbooks and a playbook to kind of schedule your next 6 months, so that when you do hire that next or your first sales rep, that they're going to be hitting the ground running, and you're going to have so much more confidence in your rep and also in your process.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, you got it. That's pretty much laid out perfectly the next 4 weeks there. So reminder, guys, that is next week, April 29th, same time, same place. Then again, May 6th, and again, May 13th. But let's talk about the competition. Let's talk about not the contest, the giveaway that's
There's
happening.
not even a contest.
Not
The
even a
only contest you have
contest.
to do is just register.
You're just
Yeah, I'm
gonna be
super
here.
excited. It's usually you don't see, especially when you're giving out free content, free valuable content, you usually don't see kind of this bonus on top of it. But yeah, we've got an awesome prize. I'm chipping in, predictable revenues chipping in. So I'm giving my time and my team's time. We're going to be building a sales playbook with you. So somebody in the audience, a founder, an entrepreneur, a new sales leader, you're going to have the chance. We're going to work together one-on-one, building at your sales playbook, spend some time together, and then you actually don't even have to build it. Like, our team's going to do all the building of it. So we work together, we build it together. And then at the end of our engagement, we build a sales playbook in 30 days and you have it. And we also give suggestions and a roadmap for how to improve it and any gaps. And we build out a few things together too. So if you don't have, let's say, an SDR hiring playbook, then we'll build that alongside of you. And predictable revenue has a pretty awesome gift as well too, to round it out.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are going to work with you on email sequence building. So one of the things we talked about that would need to live somewhere in your sales playbook is that email sequence. What timing between those steps? What days should you be sending out? What time? And then kind of what copy should go in there to really get the highest possible response rate, open rate, all of that, and of course ultimately conversion rate. So our consulting team or coaching team is going to work with you on an email sequence consultation, and then we're also going to give you Aaron Ross's 2 books. Look at
There's
that.
one. The other one's an ebook, so I can't really show it.
Yes, true. So there's that one. That's the predictable revenue book. And then there is From Impossible to Inevitable, which is the other book.
Yes.
Very exciting. Predictable revenue book. Some really, really golden ideas in there. Of course, it's about a decade old now. From Impossible to Inevitable really brings us back into the current day, but together
And
built
there's
a
even a
really strong.
chapter. There's a chapter in there specifically for startups too, in
Yes.
the new one. So it's a super resource no matter what stage you're at. Definitely how to recommend both books. Definitely give that the Bible, which is the OG predictable revenue, a read. And then yeah, even if you are a startup, the other book is awesome, and they actually specifically talk to founders in different stages of hiring and different stages of onboarding and that sort of thing. So it's an amazing resource.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're
absolutely.
super
And
excited to bring it to you.
yeah, and altogether that whole prize is worth $10,000. So as Drew mentioned, pretty cool prize. Um, if people want to learn more from you, of course, aside from the next 3 workshops that we're going to be doing in the 4-part series here, if people want to learn more from you, how can they do that, Drew?
Yeah, you head over to salesplaybookbuilder.com. Super simple, super straightforward. You know what I do. And we got some more workshops and trainings on there. Some amazing resources, just like one-on-one meeting, sales meeting, like founder and sales rep templates on there. There's an onboarding schedule there that you can download, lots of free resources. So yeah, salesplaybookbuilder.com. Come find me there, and you can link up with me on LinkedIn too. I'm Drew Williams, Sales Playbook Builder.
Nice. And I'm just going to drop a little hint about something that predictable revenue has coming up. So this thing, I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is because we'll do a big announcement coming soon, but you might have seen it before. We've done it before once or twice. It's pretty exciting. Keep an eye out on social media, keep an eye out on your newsletters, because there's a big announcement coming up, and it's going to involve a couple of big names like Nick Capozzi, Aaron Ross himself, and Mark Roberge. So if that doesn't spark your interest, I don't know what will. But keep an eye out for a big announcement on that surprise that's coming up. And don't forget that for this giveaway, we're going to announce the winner on May 14th. So that is the Friday, the day after the very last workshop that we'll be doing. So make sure that you keep attending so that you can have every chance to win. I think that's it for today, guys. Yeah, keep an eye out you can access the recording right here on YouTube as soon as we're finished with the stream. And we will send out to you guys all of the resources that Drew talked about here. If you have any trouble getting them, you can drop something in the chat. You can reach out to us at Predictable Revenue, shoot me a message or shoot Drew a message on LinkedIn. We'll make sure that we get those things into your hands so that you can use them before next week.
Awesome. See you next week, everybody.
See you guys.